Thank you so much for being here. Such a pleasure to have you. You are going to introduce yourself, but you lead one part of supply chain at Coca-Cola, a brand that
Yes.
needs no introduction. And
Yes.
it's not going to be a surprise for everyone to hear that you are running one of the most complex supply chain out there for a brand that obviously everybody knows. So I'm really, really happy and curious to hear about that. Obviously, the promise of Coca-Cola is to always keep a cold drink within arm's reach of desire.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear, obviously, what is your promise in that word?
Mm-hmm.
And we will start maybe with the first question. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be talking to you like this. I lead a team called End to End Integrated Planning. I am part of the North America supply chain. And when you see red trucks on the road, those are all owned by bottlers. But very unique to North America, we actually own our own supply chain. So when you think about Coke, you usually think about the sparkling beverages, and that's all produced and delivered by the bottlers. But North America owns Powerade, Smartwater, Go Peak Tea, imported Coke de Mexico, as well as chilled products like Minute Maid juices and Simply Fresh, not from concentrate, and also Fairlife Dairy. And my team basically plans all volume for all of the North America produced products for ambient, chilled, and fountain. So it's a very large supply chain that we have to manage. And my team basically generates the demand signal, supply signal, inventory targets, optimized network, all the way down to concentrate planning for bottlers as well as materials and ingredients. So it's vast. And the promise you're talking about is an important one because when you think I need a refreshment, we want to make sure that we have that bottle or a can right there within the reach. And that takes a lot of planning and a lot of time and energy to make sure that we have the right demand signal all the way down to the right can or the package, caps and labels, all the things that you take for granted. I have to make sure that we have in the plans. So it's a pretty important role that my team plays. And we need something, software or an EPM that is extremely flexible and agile and allows for employee empowerment and collaboration. So without all of that, you might not have that beverage you want right within the reach of desire, or we end up spending a lot of time to make sure that we ship it to the right place at the right time.
This is fascinating, and I will think differently next time I buy a Coke bottle at the
That's right.
supermarket. I will definitely think of you, Sarah.
Thank you.
I will start with a question around the fact that I think in this new world, your role probably had to evolve a lot. You have a fragmented supply chain, you have a volatile environment. How planning had to evolve in that context for you and your team?
Wow, change has been the only constant. When I look back on the past 7, 8 years since I got appointed into this position in 2019, I mean, COVID happened literally 6 months after I started my new job. We were all planning in Excel spreadsheets, which is incredible when you look back. Evolution was absolutely the right word because we could not go from Excel spreadsheets all of a sudden jump forward to something that we hadn't even created. And at the time, there were very few EPMs that could be as flexible and evolve with our team's maturity and planning capabilities. So we need something extremely flexible and agile. And over time, it needed to be enhanced and iterate over time. So choosing the right platform to grow with us has been one of my most important criteria. And Pigment is able to start small, but then build over time and evolve and bring additional capabilities like machine learning algorithms and now agentic AI. I will never forget, Eleanor, meeting with your team, and when they said, yeah, we can do those reporting things that your team has to do on Monday morning all automatically. You just give it data and it will replicate your emails. And we send out multiples of those emails every Monday morning, and now it can be all automated. So change is constant, evolution is constant, but if you're stuck in one place where you cannot iterate and you cannot adapt to the latest needs of the company and consumers, we are not able to service our consumers and customers and bottlers. So that word is perfect, evolve over time. And I am so excited to see all of the new capabilities that Pigment continues to roll out that we can easily adopt and also provide to our planners over time. And it's really exciting.
That's thank you so much, and I have to say thank you so much for being such a great customer. That is always pushing the boundaries of what we can do. You spend a lot of time with our product team, and that's where I
Yes.
love to spend my time. So cannot thank you enough for that.
Thank you for being responsive
Yeah.
and being a great partner too.
I know the team love working with you and your team.
Thank you.
So I think there is also a part which is, you described it earlier, your supply chain is complicated because you have parts that are your own, but then you also need to work with bottlers and other
Yes.
partners, and so it's quite
Yes.
decentralized. So I was wondering, how do you think about planning and agility when you do not own every part of the system? Can you maybe explain a little bit how?
Absolutely. So on the sparkling side, we have to collaborate extensively with our bottling partners. So they purchase concentrate from the Coca-Cola Company,
Right.
and they put water and flavoring and carbonation to create the beverages that you love and enjoy. So when we launch innovation every year, and we probably have several hundreds that we launch every year, we have to collaborate with 65 bottlers that buy our concentrate and then produce and deliver to the retailers. Well, we used to do all of that in Excel and Outlook. So emailing spreadsheets, version control. When customers change their minds on, yeah, we're going to take 3 flavors instead of 5, or, yep, another retailer decided it's going to be regional rather than national. My God, we had to send multiple spreadsheets again and again and again. And Pigment is able to basically facilitate that entire collaboration in one platform. And not every bottler is created equal. Some bottlers have very, very sophisticated planning softwares and are able to generate SKU level, by week, location level forecast. And some of the smaller bottlers do not have any capabilities like that. So we had to bring something in that was the lowest common denominator in terms of ease of use and adoption, while still allowing North America, which is us, to see how much concentrate we need to produce and distribute and help our bottlers be successful. And Pigment has been magic. My goodness, the UI is so user-friendly. Not a lot of people need extensive training. All they have to do is to go and sign in with their email address and password, and it's all laid out for them. And the user reviews have been nothing but stellar. So we are very, very happy with the result of our first model that went live about a year and a half ago. And it is enabling even more capabilities in terms of launching more innovation every single year, because we're having a lot of fun with these flavors. And every year we do little mini Fantas for Halloween, for instance. Right now we have cherry float, which
Yeah,
is really yummy. And Pigment is enabling all of that. So it's very exciting to see how these platforms and capabilities and models can bring the system together. And when I say system, it's North America, it's the bottlers, and our concentrate arm of the company all working together to make sure that we launch all these exciting new flavors on time and in full.
Wow, no, congratulations on managing to build such a complex system, and thank you
Thank
for the
you.
compliment. That will make the team really proud.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's fun.
Thank you.
It's fun when things work.
Indeed,
Yes.
indeed. No, you're right. You're right. So there is a question that I think is a follow-up to what we just said, which is how do you balance the need for global consistency with the need for local responsiveness across markets?
Yeah.
Curious how you think about.
Yeah. So, of course, we have global IT and digital strategies. But North America is a little bit different and unique because we have our own supply chain.
Yes.
So, we actually evaluated what the global planning solutions are against our requirements in North America. And North America is also different in that we have very powerful retailers as our customers, as well as a pretty complex bottling network as well. Out of the 65, we only have about 15 that actually produce the finished goods, and then the other 50 are basically distributors of the finished goods. So when we have our requirements bumped up against what global solutions are able to deliver, not everything could be met. So you're right, it is a delicate balancing act where we want to make sure that we are not going off and doing something rogue. And that's why involving our digital enablement and IT partners right from the get-go is very critical. So we followed all of the right steps to evaluate Pigment, because things like security and architecture are incredibly important. We have the secret formulas, as you know, and security is utmost importance. And Pigment passed everything with flying colors, and we opened it up essentially for anyone in the company to be able to leverage Pigment as their solution too. So we aim to follow the company strategies and requirements, but then when we have unique needs that need to be met in a different way, we go through the proper process and channels.
Yeah, that's great, and that's a really good way also to be agile and flexible in this current.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Because, being able to scale from something small to global
yes.
applications is also very important. And we needed to make sure that Pigment could do that. And we are able to do that. So it's really exciting.
That's great. You were talking about the cherry flavor and the little Fanta
Yes.
for Halloween. So you are dealing with major seasonal peaks. You have a lot of unexpected demand shift, I'm sure, with
Yes.
products that work much better than what you had anticipated. How do you build a system that lets you move from reactive to genuinely anticipating? And does that require a specific transition?
Yeah, being proactive and being able to inform our executives with facts and data and forward-looking information, that's part of our vision. So when you are not able to foresee what might happen, then it is daily firefighting and it becomes very, very painful. And it used to be like that when we had Excel models on everybody's laptops and desktops and whatnot that could not be really shared widely. I could not say back in 2019 that our supply chain was truly demand driven. Well, we had to make it demand driven, and we had to make it far enough into the future that we can model different scenarios. What if we do more than we had expected? What if this does not do as well as we had expected? Now, with an EPM like Pigment, we are able to model those scenarios and see the potential impact on the rest of the supply chain. And it is such an important and critical capability because when demand changes, the expectation is everything downstream and upstream also changes. And before, we could not say that that was really true. Now I can tell you, wow, that demand changes, then everything has to follow. And it's exciting to be able to do it in a platform that is not all integrated into ERP, that there is an opportunity for us to kind of play in the sandbox to make sure that, yeah, we are modeling these things to see the impact rather than, yeah, it's going into our budget and it's running our operations.
That would be scary.
So, yeah, being able to do scenario planning is also an important capability.
Yes, that makes sense. And yeah, I think more today than ever, this
Yes.
ability to anticipate and do what if is.
It's a volatile world
yeah.
out there.
Yeah,
So,
yes,
absolutely.
You've been operating under extreme pressure. You talked about COVID. How did you handle that? Is there something that you've carried forward? And also, would love to hear perhaps your journey from 19 when you joined COVID hit to now, because you've been on Pigment for like very recently. So yeah, would love to hear it all.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, in 2019, everything was done in Excel.
Yeah.
And in 6 months of my tenure as integrated planning VP, we were all quarantined, and the entire global supply chain basically went nuts. And we were essentially building the plane while we were flying it in terms of planning capabilities. So it was really, really tough. And that's when supply chain got like our 5 minutes in the spotlight when everybody was talking about it, because all of a sudden you couldn't take it for granted. And it was incredibly difficult for our sales, commercial, and marketing teams that basically drive our demand. And their number one goal is to increase demand and grow our brand. And it was so frustrating that supply chain was a big constraint. So what we had to do from planning perspective was to let those demand creating functions to know, yes, this is where you need to sell because we have plenty of capacity or product. We don't have to import packaging from, another country in Asia or in the Middle East. Yes, you are able to go and sell that. But then on the other hand, we had many, many constraints. And my goodness, I don't think we ever really thought about how global our supply chain was until everything basically ground to a halt, right? So the lesson that we carried forward from that time is we need to constantly connect between supply and then back to demand.
Yes. Yeah.
Not only demand does everything and then supply better deliver,
Right.
but when we have constraints, when we have shortages, we are able to communicate with enough lead time so that sales, marketing, and commercial can take the right steps to control the demand or sell more of that, but not more of this. Another is resilience in supply chain. So how can we have more than one supplier for that particular packaging or that particular ingredient? Because when it came to just, wow, we needed those oranges out of a country or a state and we couldn't keep up with the demand. So we are very conscientious of Do we have secondary suppliers? Do we have contingency plans so that we don't run into those difficult situations again?
Wow, thank you for delivering a full supply chain MBA. I think that's going to be useful to a lot of people out there
Thank
to
you.
hear your story and how you went after it. So you spoke a bit about the things that you changed permanently. I think that's one example, trying to have a supply chain that is more resilient. Are there things that also you had to revert once the pressure lifted? And curious to hear also if there are more things like the resilience of the supply chain that now are here forever and that are must-haves.
Yes. I never really thought about how many different, I knew how many different flavors we had. 12-ounce can, 12-pack. Last time I counted, we had over 130 flavors. And can bodies became a huge constraint during COVID because a lot of people were drinking beer, and beer was prioritized for aluminum packaging companies over soda. So we had to go down to 5 flavors for a while. We had Coke Classic, Diet Coke, Zero Sugar, Sprite, and Orange Fanta. So that was very painful for our marketing and commercial teams. So we try to remember when we have these constraints, we cannot do everything possible that sales, commercial, and marketing teams want to do. And sometimes they need reminders. So having routines like sales and operations planning to make sure that we are closing the loop every month, and constantly checking in with what the demand signal is, and supply capabilities and capacity. Those became very important conversations.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yep.
I think coordination. You spoke a lot about collaboration, but
Yes.
being highly coordinated
Yes.
is the only way, I guess, to anticipate and being able to be super agile. If you think about the resilience, so you spoke about the idea of having multiple suppliers, for instance. Are there other things that are absolutely necessary for a supply chain to be extremely resilient when there is a next crisis? So right now, there is an energy crisis, and there are many crises that have happened since COVID. What are the top of mind things you need to have to be resilient?
So we have gone through quite a bit of change in our supply chain.
Yes.
And in our operating model in the last 5 years. So not only were we dealing with shortages and the impact from COVID, but also we were executing a strategy called Asset Light.
Yes.
The partnership between the Coca-Cola Company and our co-manufacturing partners has become incredibly critical because these are independent companies and they also have to be efficient and effective to make their revenue targets and profitability targets. You mentioned coordination and collaboration. We also had to be very transparent. So not only do we share what our demand signal is, but also our supply plans and our inventory targets because we do not have infinite capacity. So there's a lot of planning around peak season preparedness, and we have to do that process with multiple co-manufacturing partners. And without that kind of transparency and forward-looking plans enabled by Pigment, we could not be agile. We could not be strategic in our co-planning together. And nobody wants to be caught without a contingency.
Yes.
So again and again, I'm going to say collaboration, transparency, and coordination through digital enablement. It can't be spreadsheets anymore. So regular touch bases, of course, weekly and monthly and quarterly, but also we keep pushing out the horizon.
Yes.
So it might have started with 13 weeks, but now it's half a year. Now it's full 12-month rolling. And when we share warehouse load forecast with our third-party warehouses, We might not be 100% accurate all the time, but they are able to plan their labor accordingly. When we had several of our co-manufacturing partners actually go bankrupt in the last year and a half, we had to quickly come up with contingencies. And with the transparency and the forward-looking plans, we have been able to be very agile. And sometimes you can't just get capacity out of nowhere. So we had to continue to push out recovery dates, etc. But we have been able to, again, proactively work with marketing, sales, and commercial to manage our demand in the most optimal way possible. It might not have given us the best accurate demand plan, but it was the best optimized collaborative plans for both the demand and supply. And without digital solutions, it becomes excruciating because you mentioned version control earlier. Can you imagine doing this in Excel and trying to keep up with, is this V1 dash final or V18 final and the final? It becomes very, very difficult. So having that digital enablement to be the backbone of everything we do is very critical to our success.
Well, that's very impressive.
Thank you
for sharing. I'm going to switch gears to driving change because you've been extremely excellent at driving change at Coca-Cola. I've been quite impressed with everything you've done with your team and how fast you managed to actually drive change through adopting new technology. If you could share perhaps in this very high-stake environment where obviously the cost of getting it wrong is quite real, how do you build a culture where people feel safe enough to experiment? And also how have you been driving that change at scale?
Excellent question. Just like any other human, I hate change. Change is very, very hard. And when change is outside of our control, it becomes even more difficult. I have gone through about 14 or 15 different restructures and reorgs at the Coca-Cola Company, and I've been here only 14 years. So it's been incredible how many changes we have gone through. All necessary, absolutely, but change is very difficult for humans. And I read this great quote, and it's attributed to Socrates, but who knows. He says something like, create something that is so great, people would want to move toward that new state. And I constantly remind myself, change should not be painful. If I really truly create and give my planners something that they really want, then adoption will be like that. So change management to me seems silly almost, because it's not about managing change. It is about adoption. And getting my planners to that end goal should not be that difficult. So imagine you're struggling every day in an Excel model that is not connected to anything. And you have to download that demand signal. You have to download your network plan. You have to download your inventory status every single day. And in 2 hours, everything is old again. And you have to re-pull all of this data, and you're doing everything manually. My God, I would cry if I had to do it every other hour. And then everybody's yelling at me because I'm cutting orders or I don't have the right inventory at the right time. And my goodness, that is so hard. And that's what it used to be like in 2019. So my aim is always create something that my planners will want to move to because it makes everything easier. And we ran a proof of concept with Pigment and 2 other software vendors on something called decision intelligence. And it's basically leveraging machine learning capabilities as well as AI for my planners to evaluate different scenarios when we have a great imbalance between demand and supply. And Pigment won the bake-off because you really, really listened to what our planners were saying. And when the planner said shelf life is really important, shelf life remaining is really important, because once it goes into too old to ship status, that inventory is no longer viable. The other two did not listen. Pigment did. And again and again and again, every single week, my planners gave you feedback. Can we see it like this? Can you change the decision tree? Can you incorporate X, Y, and Z? And Pigment was able to deliver every single week. It was amazing. So they cannot wait until the POC actually becomes a real capability. They're the ones asking for it, not me pushing it. See, the magic is delivering that capability that the planners want. Because why would you spend hours and hours pulling data when you can have it right there at your fingertips? So that's why I'm so excited about all of the native capabilities that you're bringing to us, because it's not a bolt-on. You just introduced that modeler, next level modeler. Renee is so excited to test it out. She's like, oh my gosh, imagine if we could do all that for our planners and then some, because you are always looking for the next thing to bring to us, that we can partner with you and develop something new. Change is constant. I want to continue to evolve through those changes and deliver the end product that our planners will be really excited about using.
I have to tell you, I am equally excited to keep partnering with you of bringing the next innovation. You know,
Yes.
that's what I love every day, and what Romain, my co-founder that you know well, love as well. So I can't wait to hear, you know, what else
Yes.
we could build together.
Me too. And supply chain has real life consequences. If I over forecast, over plan, then we might have obsolete inventory. If I under forecast, under plan, then we might be out of stock on shelf, and neither is okay. So it's a constant iteration of how can we do this better tomorrow than today. So yeah, I am so excited to be leveraging all these new capabilities.
Thank you. Thank you for being such an awesome partner. So obviously we're going to look towards the future now. And we cannot talk transformation without talking about AI. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for AI in supply chain planning? And where are you actually placing bets today versus what's still theoretical?
So I told my boss a couple weeks ago that we are probably the only function that is leveraging AI the way nobody else is in the company.
Yeah.
So Coca-Cola has developed its own chat GPT. So we don't go outside of the company walls to ask sensitive questions. We also have Copilot, brought on by, of course, Microsoft as our kind of meeting facilitator and for productivity purposes. And I love those capabilities. And my team and I use those capabilities extensively. But what I'm really excited about is optimizing our recommendations. AI can be very scary if we all approach it as if it's going to threaten my role or my identity or my job. But how I think of it is, how can it enhance what we do every day? So that decision intelligence proof of concept was the perfect example of my team really seeing the possibilities of what it can be. So I mentioned earlier, when orders come in against inventory that is not in the right place at the right time, then our planners have different options. One would be, well, bring it from some other location. Another option might be break into the production schedule and produce that other item in the quantity that we need. Or number 3, move the order to another location and fulfill it from that location. Or there might be 3 other options. The way that we built that POC is Pigment gives us choices. And when we put in, yep, this could be the revenue and the costs associated, then you can actually see potential profitability of each of the decisions. My goodness, we never had that before. And then it empowers the planner to choose the option that is the most fitting to that particular scenario. And your machine learning algorithm learns over time which decision the planner keeps choosing depending on all those different variables, right? Yes. Then eventually it can actually make the decision on behalf of the planner. Now, the planner no longer has to go look at 6 different options. It already gave us, yep, these are the 2 top options. You're always optimizing X over Y, so this is the best course of action. That's just one use case, Eléonore. We have identified a dozen others. So when I told my boss, this is truly the future of how we can leverage AI in supply chain, he was very happy to hear and asked, okay, so when are we bringing this to production? And right now we are a little busy to replace our current APM with Pigment. But I'm hoping either Q4 of this year or Q1 of next year, we are able to actually implement and put into production that first use case. And then we're going to see, okay, which are the next 2, 3, 4 priorities and how quickly can we bring those to life. And based on the modeler agents that you just demonstrated, my goodness, it could take less than 6 months to bring 6 more use cases. And that's what's so exciting about AI. It's not replacing my planners. It's making us smarter. It's making us more effective and more efficient. And that is truly what I want. And be able to empower decisions at the lowest level rather than having to ask their bosses which is the best option here. Or always rely on institutional knowledge or experience, because those might not be the most optimal depending on the latest transportation rates or breaking into schedule that could be very, very expensive. So it's just making us smarter, and that is my goal.
Well, thank you, first of all, for having been such a great business partner to co-building the planner agent with us. And I agree with you. For me, it's about unlocking the impossible and giving superpowers to your planners. And they need that. They really need that. And this idea of really being able to bring things that they would never, ever be able to do before anyway is quite groundbreaking. So I'm really bullish.
Yes, really and it's really exciting change. So I'm constantly looking at how are the planners feeling? How are they doing? Are they having to work on weekends or outside of the working hours? Because most productive employees are happy employees. Yes. And I want to make sure that everybody has good life-work balance. They are able to prioritize their family and their personal goals as well as professional goals. And being able to balance all of those variables for high engagement and productivity and happy employees, that is one of the most important things to me. Because what am I here for? They're actually much smarter than I am. And if I cannot enable and empower my employees, then I'm not doing my job.
I cannot agree more. It really brings 2 things to planners or other users of the platform. I think one is, to your point, is like everybody's overworked in that space. That's the problem. I'm sure all of you planners are overworked. So the ability to give a prompt, ask and give instruction to agents, and then, you close your laptop, you come back in the morning and it's done. That's huge. That's massive. That's massive.
Massive.
And the second for me is also, and I don't know if you agree with that, but it's also the joy of working with this incredibly new technology that is just bringing things that you would not even have imagined.
Yes.
So for me, that's also part of it, is like
I
making
agree.
your work, your day to day really interesting, because you
Yes.
can focus on strategy
Yes.
and not on execution of like, to your
Yes.
point, what is my version of the spreadsheet. It's more
Yes.
like, okay, I give my instruction and I try to be really high level here and take
Yes.
decisions myself.
Absolutely. And
So-
this is an exciting time. I think we'll be looking back on this time in 10 years and see, which use cases really mattered. What kind of AI applications really matter to get us to the next level, especially in supply chain and operations. There are so many potential opportunities that we are just starting to explore, and I can't wait to see what's next.
What's next? Do you have an idea of what you think is going to be, or is it hard for you to say? The
I'll
most
tell you
impactful?
next time.
Yeah, I love that. Let's
Yeah.
redo. And I think it's not in 10 years, Sarah. It's in 2
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
So I would love
Absolutely.
to. That's where we should go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe I would love to have one question on personal growth, because you are an extraordinary business leader. I would love to understand maybe from you, what are you paying attention to right now? How are you trying to learn yourself about AI, etc., and how that's shaping how you think about the next 5 to 10 years, to your point?
I'm not the expert in this space, and I rely a lot on others like Pigment and your leadership to bring me ideas. I read a lot. I try to read the news every day, not only on what's going on in the world, but especially in technology space that's relevant to what I do, how I should be thinking about the next generation of capabilities. And I read about 100 books a year, and they could be business focused, technology focused, leadership focused, as well as tons of memoirs and fiction. And what I come back to over and over and over again is we cannot lose humanity in all of this. And I have to put my people first and technology second. But if you resist technology or are afraid of trying something different and really go after digital capabilities, then you got to think twice. Is this where I belong? There are plenty of companies that are still struggling in the space, that are still in Excel spreadsheets, that are not at the next generation level, that they could go and work in. But for me, what's really important is do not lose the humanity in all of this. And that's why I keep saying, how do we enable our planners? How do I empower them even more? How do we bring capabilities that allow them to be the best version of themselves, at least while they're at work? So reading, learning, attending conferences, reading white papers, interacting with Copilot and Claude, exploring what else is going on out there constantly so that I don't become stale. That's an important personal goal of mine. Because if I fall behind and I'm not thinking strategically about the next thing that might be coming, then I'm not doing my job. And I will leave my planners unprepared for the next generation of technology. And then truly, AI will replace us all. And I don't want that to happen while, I'm leading this team. It's not on my watch, I would like to say. But in 10 years, who knows? I mean, look at how much has happened in just 1 year. Because I remember meeting with your engineers April of last year, and they were showing off the analyst agent. And now we have modeler agents and planner agents and supervisor agents. It's mind-blowing how quickly everything is evolving. So I'm really excited about the next generation instead of being fearful. I'm truly excited because I think we can leverage it so much more than we are today.
Well, thank you for the goodwill. I think learning and creating this empathy, thinking first about the human and how to reskill and enable your team are the best business advice that I think anyone could get in this era. So thank you, Sara, for being such a great customer and business partner. Thank you for your team, and thank you so much. It was such an honor for me to do this podcast with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Eléonore, for inviting me to do this. I appreciate you.
Thank you.